So the following is just a quick overview of some of the sales tools that are available out there for oil and gas sales professional that's focusing on oil and gas producers. Why would you invest in tools like this? We know that the expected growth of the oil and drilling and completions and adding new equipment market is going to be flat in 2018, and probably in 2019 is going to be a while until we see a real rebound. So you've got to be able to bring essentially your A game from a sales perspective. So what I'm going to just bring you through is a process today. We've automated a lot of it. The next iteration and the iteration after that becomes more and more automated. So here I'm looking at my new well license dashboard, and let's say that I have facilities and I want to target the Grand Prairie area. What I've done is I've built a dashboard for myself that says show me all of the well licenses and what I'm looking at since October till today that have not that are open and have not been drilled. And so I've come in and I've checked my date, I've checked my area that I'm interested in, and then here's a list of companies that I'd be interested in looking at. So I'm going to go and take a look at 7 Generations to start with. And when I selected 7 Generations, a couple things happened here. Is I could see some of the application groupings that they've had associated with their well licenses, and then I can also see the surface location of those areas, and I can see the fields, so the fields associated with these particular licenses. So right now what I'm looking at is a bunch of 12 well pads, some 6 well pads that are open. I know that they've reduced some of their budgets, so they may or may not drill all of those. But that's my objective, is to be able to go in and take a look at this a little bit closer. One of the things I can do is I can come in and I can select that particular 12 well pad, and I can see it's in the Kakwa area. So one of the things I might want to do is to research that a little bit further. Let's say that I want to know what rigs potentially would be operating at that particular facility. I now have another tab, and that other tab essentially what it's showing me here is, and I'll bring it back here a little bit, these are wells that have been drilled since October. And so when I look at 7 Generations, I've got 37 wells. I could come in here and I could narrow it down to the Kakwa, and now I see all of the drilling, the different contractors that have been out there and the different rigs that have been out there. And one of the things I can do is I can say, well, let's take a look at this 12 well pad. This essentially is a 12 well pad. 12 wells have been drilled. So I can select that, and then when I take a look at it, I can see the 4 different rigs that are associated with it. So when I look at this particular Kakwa area that I've got this 12 well pad there is the potential that these 4 rigs are going to be the rigs that have been operating on that. Some other things that from a business intelligence perspective, when I actually go to the account 7 Generations, one of the things that I did along the way, so here's my account record in my CRM, some information about 7 Gens, my contacts, my sales opportunities, the drilling information that I happen to be looking at, but I've been collecting some notes and attachments about the account. And then one of the attachments that I've seen here is, or one of the things I've collected is a picture of a super pad. So that's probably a 12 well pad that was in the Kakwa area. It might have been the one that they just completed and I'm taking a look at. Some of the things I can do is I can zoom in a little bit on it and take a closer look and see if I can see any of my competitors. What is it that I need to know about this particular facility that would be interesting to me? So now I've got, essentially some targets. I've got some areas or some information that I want to be able to discuss with this particular customer. And so now when I look at it, one of the things that I can do is I can also leverage the mapping so I can get just kind of a geographical reference. So that's the same well licenses that are opened, and then they're just kind of grouped together on the map. And one thing I always like to do is I like to keep reference of where their existing gas plants are. So these 2 locations are the gas plants, and then I can come down here and I can look at those applications. I could click a few just to tell me, give me some geographic reference of this particular pad site here, and then come back and see that that is the pad site that is in reference on this side of it. So that could be the the target area, the discussion that I may want to have with this particular customer. So I have a grouping of contacts related that I've accumulated with that particular account. But one of the things that I want to look at is I can come in and I can say, hey, let's take a look at the org chart. So I'm not saying that this is the final org chart here related to 7Gens, but I'm working my way through that particular process. So I might be interested in what facilities they might be putting in there, might be interested in the completion side of the work, might be interested in the drilling side. My recommendation is you're constantly working through all the different organizational structure within the account. And then I know these are very difficult people to get a hold of. They're busy. They've got a lot of salespeople talking, going after them. So I can do some different things. One of the things that's pretty basic associated with it, this particular account here, is I can edit this account. I could say maybe what rigs he's associated to. I can look at his status. So right now I can say he's unaware. And I believe right now he's a senior management position. Budget controlled, I haven't determined that yet on that side of it. So I'll say okay, and now I've got them highlighted as red. I can come in and I can go to that specific contact, and when I look at that contact, I can come in and I can say, who is it that I am connected to that might be connected to this particular person. So somebody that might be able to help me from an introduction perspective. This process can work. It's the same thing down here. I could come to this particular contact, do the same thing, take a look at this contact, and also from a LinkedIn perspective. So LinkedIn Navigator, I can see other people that are connected to him, and then I can talk to these people about helping me have a discussion with this individual on what pad he might be operating on and what I might be able to do to penetrate that. Some of the things I see here are also some of the groups that he's involved in on LinkedIn. So I may want to get more active in those groups. I want to see if they're there. I want to see him post. I want to start posting some information associated with this particular individual. The great thing about what I've showed you here is it's totally repeatable. So right now I looked at it from a 7 generations perspective, but when I look at my well licenses, I can come back here, I can back it out a little bit, and I can say, hey, let's take a look at Canadian Natural Resources. So we're not building the major super pads there, but I could come in and I can say, well, let's look at this particular pad. Happens to be in the Carr region. We can come in. There is the facility. I can then come back over here, take a look at that, back it out a little bit, find my Canadian Natural Resources that is in this particular set of data, Canadian Natural Resources. And then when I go in, I can find what rigs they've been doing, who's been drilling pads for them, what's their philosophy from a pad drilling perspective. I can then go back into my CRM. I can look for Canadian Natural Resources, and I can start that process over and over again. So it becomes very repeatable. It becomes a situation where we're leveraging information that we're collecting, information about the account, some information about their drilling and their facility and pipeline activity, the contacts that we have associated with it, other sales opportunities we might have to help us be able to be more successful in selling in this more competitive environment that we're in.